recording to start. Hang on.
Are we on the Google Slide again?
Yeah, so on Google Classroom, it posted a little bit ago. In social studies, I posted something called Ancient India Caste System. So you're going to want to open up the Google slide that says Jones Caste Pyramid.
Okay.
It'll look like this. There's two slides, one that has some information and some stuff to fill out, as well as a pyramid on the second slide. So open up that one. And then the other one is the reading that we're going to use to help us with it. It's just 1 page long. You can have that PDF open if you would like to. It might be helpful. I will also have it on my screen, but we all know that sometimes I don't keep it up all the time. So maybe have it open for yourself too.
Does it move? So in this one, you have to like correct and move the stuff into those boxes on the pyramid?
Yeah, you're going to have to put them in order when we get there. Yep.
Okay.
Alrighty, so take about 1 minute, get that stuff all pulled up. So you should have the Google slide. At the very least, have the Google slide up. And then if you would like the PDF of the article up as well, that's fine. We're going to read that one together. So we have a short lesson today, so we're going to get going pretty quick. And we won't be able to do all of this together, so we're going to have you guys do quite a bit of it on your own. So just so you know, this is one of those times where I'm going to say, go finish it on your own, which means you have to go finish it on your own. All right, I'm going to go ahead and get zoomed in on the article so that we can read it. And I'm going to start reading, so follow along, learn some new things. The Aryans and the caste system. About 1500 BC, powerful nomadic warriors known as the Aryans began to appear in northern India. Sorry, I'm going to mute. Okay, there we go. Good. Their skills on horseback allowed the Aryans to conquer the native people and to expand south into the subcontinent. The Aryans spoke Sanskrit, which is a language that is similar to what is spoken in Europe. But unlike the Dravidian language spoken in India before the Aryan invasion, the similarities with European languages suggest that Aryans may have migrated from India, or to India from Central Asia. So they went from Central Asia and traveled down kind of southwest into India. But we cannot be sure because the writings of the Aryans do not suggest that they came from somewhere else. So we're not entirely sure where these Aryan people came from, but they came and started taking over parts of northern India and moving south into the continent of India, or the subcontinent. The Aryans wrote songs and stories about their gods. The stories were called the Vedas, which we've heard in the song. The Vedas were handed down by word of mouth for hundreds of years until about 500 BC, when the Aryans learned how to write. The Rig Veda is a collection of more than 1,000 songs that survives to this day. The influence of these stories is why this period of Indian history, lasting from about 1500 BC to 322 BC, is known as the Vedic Age. So these Vedas, Veda, I think it's Veda. I'm pretty sure. These are like songs about the gods. So this is kind of how we know about their religion and how they how the different ways that they worshipped the gods that they thought were super important. So these songs are really helpful for us now. About 1000 BC, the Aryans discovered iron ore in the Ganges River Valley. The Aryans used the iron to build strong plows to grow crops. They also used iron weapons to control the Dravidian people and to impose a rigid social structure called the caste system. So this is what we're talking about today, the caste system. It's essentially like your social class. We're gonna talk about the people that lived like the lowest of the low all the way up to the wealthy people. They had different classes for these different people, and depending on how wealthy you were. So that's kind of what we're going to talk about today. Caste members lived, ate, married, and worked within their own group. So you couldn't go from one part of the caste system to a different one. You stayed in, no matter what, always stayed in the same one. A person that was born into one caste rarely changed castes or mixed with members of other castes. So essentially, let's say you were born a king so you're a prince, right? You were born, your parents are king and queen of whatever place you're in. You will basically only ever socialize, you'll eat, get married, live, and only socialize with the super wealthy people. You'll never really go down below that level or caste to a different level and talk to them or interact with them. You basically stay in the caste or the social class that you were in, and that was it.
Think of how many people they knew, though.
Probably not very many. The people up at the top probably did not know very many people, but the people as you get down closer to the bottom, probably a lot of people. Even now, there are so many more people that are poor or living in poverty than there are people that are wealthy. So
Beverly Hills is a wealthy neighborhood. Well, area.
it is. All right, so let's talk about this caste system. At the top of the caste system were the Brahmin and the, oh, see, I can't say this, Kshatriyas? Kshatriya? That sounds good. The Brahmin were the priests, the teachers, and the judges who understood Dharma. Dharma were the spiritual laws that people of ancient India believed governed the universe. The Brahmin often lived apart from the rest of society in temples. The Kshatriya, those people, were the warrior caste who made everyday decisions and ran the government. They had most of the power in everyday life, but their decisions could be overruled by the Brahmin. So you have the Brahmin, they're like the top level. Basically, the people.
Ramen people. They're ramen people.
Yeah. Basically, they were like the priests, the teachers, and the judges. So the people that just rule over everybody else. Priests understood the religion part of things. Teachers taught everybody everything, and judges gave out the law, right? And then the people right underneath them are the warriors, the people that run everyday life there. But still, the people above them, the Brahmin, controlled the warriors. Okay. Our next level is the Vaishya, were skilled farmers and they were skilled farmers and merchants. So people that basically created goods and sold goods. So they farmed and made all the crops, probably livestock as well, so cows and pigs and things like that. And then the people that sold them. So they're like basically everyday people, kind of like we are. They occasionally had leadership positions in local villages. The unskilled workers were of the Sudras caste. So this is the lowest caste. The Sudras. Maybe not the lowest. One of the lower ones. This caste had members of the Sudras. Wow. Members of the Sudra caste often worked on the farms of the people in the higher castes. So almost like the slave part of it. Like they just worked and worked and worked. They never got really any sort of freedom. Okay. Foreigners, lawbreakers, and people from isolated tribes and people suffering from contagious diseases were called the untouchables or the outcasts. Members of this caste were traditionally regarded as unsuitable for personal relations with people in the caste system. These untouchables had jobs or habits that involved polluting activities, such as having a job that involved ending a life. So I just said that the Sudras was the lowest class. Nope. The untouchables, this one is the lowest. This one is essentially the slaves. They did the jobs that most people
you can't touch them.
Yeah, they were considered almost like dirty and just outcasts to the people around them, so they didn't interact with anybody because nobody.
I would escape if I was one of them.
You could try, but I don't think that they.
I tried to.
Yeah. So, cast members were vegetarians, like me. What's up? Oh, thank you. Oh, that's okay. So, cast members, so each level, no matter what, were vegetarians. So people who ate meat or fish were not accepted into their society. So basically, so I'm a vegetarian. I don't know if you guys know that about me. I don't eat meat or fish. Basically, if our classroom were a caste system, I would be like the best person here because I don't eat meat and I wouldn't even let you guys come in my classroom because you guys all eat meat, I'm assuming.
Meat is so good.
No.
I'm not a fish person and I don't like any kind of fish at all.
I like shrimp.
You meat? Okay,
Not
but anyway,
even shrimp.
that's beside the point. Let's keep going. We're going to run out of time. So let's keep going so we don't run out of time.
The water.
Untouchables were hired to do work that members of the caste system would not do. These jobs included killing or disposing of dead cattle or working on their hides. The untouchables also worked as sweepers, washers, or in other jobs that required contact with human emissions, such as sweat, urine, or feces. So again, they're doing the jobs that nobody else wants to do. They're forced to do it. Untouchables were often forbidden to enter temples, schools, and wells where caste members drew water. In some parts of India, even the site of the untouchables was thought to be polluting. The untouchables were often forced to sleep during the day and work at night. The caste system became less rigid as the Indian people were exposed to outside ideas. Many untouchables left their rigid social structure by converting to Islam, Buddhism, or Christianity. So instead of staying under Hinduism, which is the Indian religion, they converted to different religions so they could escape. Gandhi referred to the untouchables as the Harijan, a term that means blessed, because Gandhi believed that the Harijan were blessed by their suffering. Gandhi is like I don't know if you guys have heard of Gandhi, but he basically he's he's a Buddhist. So, well, he's not alive anymore. And he basically was like the highest person in Buddha religion, and everybody looked up to him. He believed in like peace and no suffering and everybody is equal, that type of stuff. Okay. We'll talk about him more, I think, next week. In modern usage, Gandhi's term has been rejected as demeaning. The Harijan prefer to call themselves the Dalit, a term that can be translated as oppressed, which means that people are judging you and putting you down all the time. The Indian government has provided the Dalit with specific employment privileges and granted them special representation in the Indian Parliament. Despite such measures, the Dalit continue to have fewer educational and employment opportunities than Indians whose families belong to the caste system. The British controlled part or all of the Indian subcontinent from 1612 to 1947, so that's almost 300 years. The British thought that the caste members believed they would have to live out their lives in a particular caste in order to be reborn into a higher caste. We know that some Indian people did have an opportunity to join higher castes, but this did not happen very often. Discrimination against the Dalit has been forbidden by the Indian Constitution since 1950, but many of India's 160 million Dalit continue to live in poverty. Indian people with family names associated with the Dalit often face discrimination. Despite Dalit poverty and discrimination, the Indian people elected a Dalit to the presidency. K.R. Narayanan served in that position from 1997 to 2002. So essentially the Dalit is like, I mean, if we can almost relate it to America right now. What's up? Put it on that back table over there for right now, because I don't know where you're sitting yet. Okay. Yeah. Sorry. Thanks, guys. No, it's totally fine. Yeah, that one over there. Thanks, guys. So that is our reading. You guys are gonna have to do this on Monday, just so you know. Yeah. No, they're good. I'm on the live meet, so they'll do it on Monday when they get here. Yeah. Okay. Sorry, those are some of the kids that have been here. So that's our reading. Use it as you see fit, because you're gonna need it. We have about 8 minutes. Let me go over what you need to do on these, and then I have a meeting I have to go to at 11:40. So yeah, that's how Fridays work for me. Are we all good?
How are we going to do AR reading when we're online?
Huh?
How are we going to do AR reading when we're online?
I'm not going to make you get AR points. Not
Okay.
when you're online, yeah. Just read. It's fine.
Mm.
All right, so let's go ahead and go over to our Google Slides. Let me explain it, and then I'm going to give you guys, well, you guys are going to have to go probably, because I have to go to that meeting. So let's do 100s to 1. Let's go with 50. Okay. So the Aryan invasion, this is, well, let's read it, and then you have 4 questions to answer. So if we read through this, it says a group of warrior nomads, the Aryans. So these warrior nomads basically means people that were traveling all over the place. They lived in a nomadic life where they just went around and around, didn't ever settle down, but they're also warriors, so they're well trained and just taking over parts of the country, right? So a group of warrior nomads, the Aryans, began to migrate into the Indus Valley region from Europe around the time that the Harappan civilization began to decline. Scholars disagree about whether the Aryans overtook the Harappan civilization by force or simply moved in and coexisted with them during their decline. Regardless, the nomadic Aryans were predominantly a cattle breeding society, and they learned how to live as a settled agriculturists from the remaining Harappan people. Therefore, the Aryans absorbed remnants of the Harappan civilization and integrated them into their own culture to form the Vedic culture. Since the Indus Valley civilization left no written records, the nature of the translation from the Harappan culture to the resulting Vedic culture is that much more of a mystery. So essentially this paragraph is saying that these nomads, the Aryans, were wandering around and they finally decided, well, we're going to settle in where Harappa is. And they either took it over, we don't know for sure, they either took it by force or they just started living with them and learned how to settle and stay there. And then the city disappeared, but the Aryan people stayed around, and that created the Vedic culture that we're talking about here. All right, so many scholars agree that the Aryans were a conquering people when they first spread into India. Slowly, they mixed with the indigenous Harappan culture. It is believed that the Aryans were a fierce and conquering people whose culture was oriented around warfare. The religion also reflected their culture, as it was dominated by warring storm gods and sky gods. This warlike nature was preserved in the Rig Veda, the oldest of the Vedas, or collection of Hindu prayers and hymns passed down by the Aryans. So they're kind of an aggressive culture. They live with even their gods are fighting each other. So they're just kind of constantly in war. Then finally, in the Rig Veda, it strictly described society was to be organized. The Indian people were divided into specific classes known as castes. Your caste was determined upon your birth, and there was no way to change your caste. This became the basis for the socially stratified caste system. The Aryans used this myth to subjugate the dark-skinned people they conquered, the Harappans. Further, the Aryans saw themselves as superior to the people who they conquered, as evidenced by the Indo-European root word of their name, ar, meaning noble or superior. So there's some information there, and you're going to use that information to end the article we just read to answer these 4 questions. So you'll just highlight it. So when you click in here, you can highlight it and highlight it a different color, whatever color you want to, as long as I can read it. So you'll highlight the correct answer. It was not B, the one that I highlighted. So number 1, where did the Aryan people originate from? Highlight your answer. Number 2, which of the following words most nearly means subjugate? So you maybe even look that one up. Highlight your answer. Number 3, which of the following words best describes Aryan culture? And then you'll highlight that answer. And then number 4 here is complete sentences. What are 3 details that explain how the caste system functions? So the class system, how does it function? And you'll write 3 details about that on that one. And then on this next slide, it gives you 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different classes. This pariah one is also the untouchables, just so you know.
Wait, so the height, what do we do? Where do we put it in at?
You just move it. So what's the very top class structure? So if we look at the very, very tippy top, what was the most regarded? Which was the highest?
The one that started with a K. It was either K or the B one.
It was one of those, but which one is it specifically that'll go up top?
The Brahmins.
Good, it's the Brahmins. So basically you'll click on it and then you have to move around until you get the 4 arrows, and then you can drag it over there. Okay, so you just drag and drop in the correct order, and then it just wants you to type in some details about this caste. So let's do 1 to 2 details. 2 details about each cast, not 32. Whoa.
32. That wouldn't even finish till like tomorrow.
Okay, and then 2 details in that one.
You could
basically
just
we're
copy and paste in all of them.
Yeah, I should just do that.
And you wouldn't even have to go back and copy and paste again.
When school is over, I'm gonna have to go to Las Vegas.
Okay, well, school is over, so you can go to Las Vegas. We're gonna end here. You guys just need to finish up these 2 slides. I'm grading both of these, so you need to make sure you finish them up. I'm including them in the list of missing assignments that I'm sending you as well, so you know that you need to finish up this assignment. We just don't have the time today.
Mhm.
Sound good?
Yeah.
Alrighty, so